I was backstage dancing, so I hope you were dancing as well out here. It's really an honor to be here today at the Center for Ethnic, Racial, and Religious Understanding. It's truly a pleasure to take you all on a journey which I've titled Human Kaleidoscopes, the Path to Insight in Creating Value. My first job was on a plantation off the coast of Charleston, South Carolina in 1996, where I was born. My guidance counselor at high school told me about an opportunity to spend the summer with other high school students, working with scientists to research loggerhead turtles. The ride and the commute to work would be a 45-minute ride by car and then a 15-minute exhilarating aluminum boat ride. I welcomed the adventure. On day one, I couldn't stop giggling with anticipation as the salt water licked my lips and small brown mud came into the boat and smeared my skin. I spent the first day helping scientists delicately pick up loggerhead turtle eggs and measure them before putting the fragile lives back into the sand. The next day and for the remainder of my job, I was separated with other black students to work on a separate plantation unsupervised. We were responsible for mowing the lawn and painting shacks on the property. I had no idea, and no one ever explained why we were separated from the white students. At that moment, I learned about the bonds of the human connection and that my liberation was tied to others. In a letter from Birmingham jail in 1963, Martin Luther King said that an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. He said that we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality and tied in a single garment of destiny, and whatever affects one directly affects us all indirectly. This initial experience on the plantation showed me that my otherness could be perceived as a deficit and punished accordingly. It sparked in me an endless pursuit to seek, demand, and create equitable living conditions and working conditions, not just for myself, but for everyone around me. My great-grandfather was the 11th of 13 children. He was born in 1913 on Maxwell Plantation in Charleston, South Carolina. His name, George Christopher Columbus Alexander Chocolate Hugie, was a name given to him by his mother, Lila. He would have been 100 years old had he lived this year. He lived as a free man on 4 plantations for the first 13 years of his life. He was the first innovator that I ever met. One humid summer, he took us, his great-grandchildren, peach picking. He piled us into his silver Cadillac. It was a 2-hour ride from where we lived, and it was hot. We were hungry, we were anxious, and we were irritated because the peach fuzz was scratching our legs and our arms. He pulled the car off the side of the road, popped the hood, and started cooking a pack of hot dogs in the engine. He taught me not only how to innovate, but how to value constant learning, serving others and being persistent. During his youth, African Americans were only allowed to attend school 3 months out of the year. He was unable to attend school because he didn't have adequate shoes or clothing. Despite this, he became an entrepreneur. He had several businesses. He invested in real estate, he owned a funeral home, and also had a limousine service. In his 80s, when I was a teenager, he had an opportunity to return to school. He attended adult literacy classes and for the first time in his life learned how to read. I could call him to talk to him, and he would say, "Stop calling me, write me a letter so I can practice reading." He was a true innovator, an inspiration, and I have become a reflection of his legacy. We are all here today, human kaleidoscopes, reflections of people that we encounter and the environment that we experience. Some of us may recall kaleidoscopes as a childhood toy, a fun instrument that opens into different shapes and colorful patterns and piques our imagination. A kaleidoscope operates on the principle of multiple reflections, where several mirrors containing colorful loose objects duplicate images and create objects that rotate and change shape as the viewer changes the kaleidoscope from side to side. The people, the places, and the things in my life have all become reflections. They've become mirrors, constructing notions of myself, affirmed my own ideas, and assisted in my unlearning of things. These reflections have impacted my action as I navigate this space called Earth. I continue and evolve and grow just as those shapes, those tiny fragments in the kaleidoscope. I create new color and transfer light to illuminate those that I encounter, reflecting back onto them what I have absorbed from them. Some people have this notion that innovation is about changing and creating something new out of something that doesn't exist, whereas my definition of innovation is about the act of strategic intuition and action. Innovation is about organizing new combination of existing elements to solve a particular problem. Kaleidoscopes create new combinations, infinite patterns from a collection of a few basic fragments. Success of one's innovation is based on our capacity to incite insight. It's our ability to ignite deeper and refined understanding and advance the human condition. Inspiration derives from the Latin word inspirare. Inspirare is to breathe in. Innovation is about one's ability to breathe insight from the outside environment and transform it into something useful. The American industrialist Henry Ford's use of the assembly line 100 years ago from today is an example of such the concept of my definition of innovation. He repurposed the moving conveyor belt system, which was used in agriculture to disassemble animals in slaughterhouses. Henry Ford reimagined this mode of production to become a conveyor belt that would assemble automobile parts. Ultimately, this revolutionized the automotive industry and the concept of manufacturing worldwide, making it cheaper and faster to produce cars and essentially other products. My personal path to serve others and my career trajectory in film, media, and writing was not influenced by a need to revolutionize a particular industry. My ideas and actions are rooted in my purpose to pursue constant learning, my purpose to improve the human condition, and my purpose to strengthen human connections through building relationships. I know that in order to fulfill my own destiny, I have to first know myself, and I truly believe that the best way to predict the future is to create it, which is why in 2010 I transplanted myself to East Africa. I moved to Nairobi, Kenya, not only to fulfill my graduate degree requirements, but also for a personal connection. I moved to Kenya to create a documentary about finding the Kenyan father that I never knew. He moved to the US to study in university, which is where he met my mother. And when I was 5 months old, he abandoned us. He left and disappeared without any explanation. 4 months after moving to Nairobi, I placed a one-line ad in a newspaper under a section called Situations Wanted. I simply asked, "Do you know Anderson Obari Etuya?" In Kenya, with a population of over 46 million people, I prayed that I would find this one man who I had never knew. Within 24 hours, I received an email from a man claiming to be Etuya. After confirming evidence with my mother, we confirmed that this, in fact, was my father. I had found him. I called the newspaper to tell them, "Thank you for putting the ad, and I had found my father." They asked if they could document our reunion. 2 days later, I met him in Javanji Gardens with a camera crew in tow. The next day, I found myself on the front cover of East Africa's largest news publication called The Daily Nation, which is a publication whose covers mostly consist of politics and sports. I felt elated. I was thankful for this miracle. I had successfully fulfilled one of my lifelong goals. I had taken a huge leap of faith, and I had connected with unknown roots. I had no idea of the impact that my story would have on other people. Shortly after my story was published and broadcast on national television, I met a woman in her 60s. She said that she had just came back from central Kenya to find her father, the father that she had never known. When I asked her, "What made you decide to go and find your father after all these years?" She told me that she had read about this woman, this American woman who would come to Kenya to find her father. And when I told her that that was me, she embraced me. She hugged me so tight, it was tighter than wearing a sweater that's 3 sizes too small. 1 year after leaving Kenya, I returned to the US invigorated to help other people share their stories. I began working with a public media organization and cultural institution called StoryCorps. Many of you may know StoryCorps from our weekly broadcast on National Public Radio that airs on Friday on a show called Morning Edition. I was drawn to StoryCorps' mission to record, share, and preserve the stories of everyday people. During my first year there, I had the opportunity to launch a national teachers initiative at the White House and collect over 500 stories documenting the conversations of teachers in public schools, along with students and parents. It proved to me that facilitating conversations between people really creates a stronger human connection and understanding. I learned that the impact of storytelling and the power of listening is transformative, as the ability to reach the heart has a profound ability to change the mind. Alongside my involvement with StoryCorps, I have stayed true and connected to my Kenyan and African roots, as well as my desire to improve the human condition. Over the past year, I've engaged with entrepreneurs in Kenya in the creative industries in music, film, television, art, design, fashion, and radio. These innovators are cultural ambassadors, change and revenue generators at the intersection of arts, culture, technology, and business. We're working together to identify solutions to local problems, create opportunities, ignite change, and experiment with our own creativity in order to create equitable economic growth, promote social understanding, and gain our own personal freedom. We seek to do this through the formation of creative strategic alliances, through the expansion of creative education programs at all school levels, and through impact investing of hard and soft infrastructure in the creative industry. Through my observations and life experience, I realized that we all possess the collective ability to change, to grow, and to evolve, and produce an infinite set of patterns and possibilities, just like the kaleidoscope. Each of us are like radios. We're transmitters. We receive and broadcast messages daily, and it's up to us and it's our choice how we transform them. Change is a reaction created by a movement which causes a person, an object, or idea or state of being to manifest, to grow into something new. And the impact of this shift can be negative or positive depending on our choice. Regardless of where I live or where I've traveled, I encounter impoverished and poor people asking me for money, for food, for jobs. One day when I was on the subway here in New York, a homeless man approached me and said, "Excuse me, ma'am, can you please spare some change?" In that moment, a phrase I had heard endless times completely transformed into a new meaning. And I thought to myself, what if instead of asking for changes in money, he was asking me to spare change, a transformation within myself? As innovators and as everyday people, we seek to change individuals, we seek to change institutions, we seek to change society. But we have to change ourselves first. The only person that we should strive to be better than is the person that we were yesterday. Thank you.